educated are less likely to die in childbirth, have fewer children, marry later, and have more prosperous households and communities. When women are educated, children are less likely to die before the age of 5 and are more likely to grow up healthier. Educated women make better decisions for their families, but today 23% of women around the world cannot read, compared to only 13% of men. Societal prohibitions against educating women is one explanation for low education rates, but others are practical. Expensive schools fees force families to choose which child to educate. Even in our own country, I know families in America who choose between male children and female children as to which should be educated. Both should be educated. Women and girls in many parts of the world spend large parts of their day fetching water and doing other time-consuming tasks that could be eliminated with better plumbing and access to fuel. Children, especially girls, often do not attend school because their schools lack private and decent sanitary facilities. And girls in unsafe parts of the world are kept home from school when it's absolutely too dangerous to leave the house. In some countries, they are even harassed, and in some countries, even murdered for going to school. The UN's goal was to reach parity in education by 2005 and in all areas by 2015. We may have missed the first goal, and there's no sign that we will hit the second, but you've got to set the goalpost high if you want to get anywhere. Worldwide, women hold only 18% of the world's national legislators, and there are only 24 countries in which women hold 30% of the legislative seats. And most economists believe that you've got to have 30% of the seats in order to have a critical mass to influence change. That is considered the threshold. In the United States, we're down there with the world's average. Women are 17% of the House, 74 members, and 17% of the Senate, 17 members. We are making progress, but it's slow. I remember I was elected in the Year of the Women, and one of my thrilling times in my life was seeing 48 women walk down the aisle, not to get married, but to be sworn into the United States Congress. And women are really there making a difference, and we must always have a sharp pencil in working to make sure more women are elected. The United States is actually below average. I find that rather shocking. Experts tell us that women don't really wield power until they are at that 30% goal. So if you wonder why there isn't enough child care funding, why education is such a low priority, why violence against women still isn't taken seriously as it should, even though we passed the Violence Against Women Act in the United States, which has made a huge difference, it certainly is not taken seriously around the world. While the glass ceiling is still strong, I authored or worked with the GAO on 2 important reports on the glass ceiling. One looked at 20 years of women in employment and saw there was a 40% gap between men and women. After you factored in reasons why there is the gap, having children, taking care of elderly parents, other gaps in employment, there was still a 20% unexplained gap between men and women, and it is persistent to this day. It is really persistent, and I call it discrimination. Also, I looked at women these are on my website, you can look at them, looked at women in management, and looked at 10 areas that employed 75% of the women in America. And it showed that because of the women's movement, the labor movement, all of you in this room that have worked so hard for equality, men and women will enter the door of employment at the same rate. We've achieved that. But 5 years out, when they start promoting into management, the gap starts. And in some areas, the gap is 18 percentage points, which is outlandish. So we still have to do a lot about that permanent glass ceiling here in our own country. And why isn't there equal pay for equal work? Why we haven't passed the Women's Equality Amendment? Think about how few women there are in Congress fighting for your rights, along with everything else we fight for in our country. And think about the fact that most of the world has ratified the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, but the United States has not. Believe me, 186 countries that have ratified CEDAW, 186 countries are not wrong.